Shalom, shalom. Giving honor and praise unto the Most High, the Creator, the Maker of heaven and earth. My name is Yeshaya Israel of the tribe of Dan of the nation of Israel. This particular presentation or speech is short, brothers and sisters. We do not, therefore, intend for it to be long, but it is in my spirit to sit there and bring this out, say, to the people for reference and for edification purposes. We hope and pray that everybody is well and will be better. We ask you all to comment, like, share, and subscribe, brothers and sisters, to the platform, to the channel. We are, brothers and sisters, Day and Night Publications. And, brothers and sisters, in light of such, we do hope and pray that everybody is well and will be better. This is on the Facebook page or profile, Yeshaya Author Danites, as well, brothers and sisters, as the YouTube channels, More Yeshaya Torah Lessons, as well as More Yeshaya History Lessons, brothers and sisters, for reference purposes. All righty. If I can be heard well from anyone in the chat, and if anyone in the chat who can hear me well is in good spirits, I ask you to type in the number 5. Asking you to type in, and I'll explain why I say that, please, the number 5 for reference purposes. Shalom, my brother, Yirmiyahu. We're going to pull up the PowerPoint, brothers and sisters, in this particular case. And it is, as you see, had to leave the city. Shalom. Giving honor to the Most High, this short video speech is to explain the reason, purpose, and benefit of our recent trip from the city. Now, brothers and sisters, I live, not to get too personal, in New York. And I had to, brothers and sisters, sit there and leave this particular city for several reasons, if we will. And that is this. The weather's warmer. Been going back and forth with certain personal matters within this said 2024 that I have not addressed online, because for one thing, Solomon said a fool's vexation is presently known. So it's not always a thing to come into a pleasant platform or present, I must say, platform and just air out all your stuff. That's just not intelligent, whether either good or bad. But now in the case of what Solomon stated, where it says a fool's vexation is presently known, I've gone through a lot in the said last month, so-called February, trying to sit there and get things together regarding what they call Black History Month. Some of the presentations have been postponed. I had to, not to get too personal, deal with a moving from one place to the next, from one residence to the next. In one particular case with that. Another case was I had drama with the telephone company that I had to sit there and change from T-Mobile to Verizon. I thought about actually posting the lies that T-Mobile has told me and so forth. But I'm like, you know what? That's not even going to sit there and make any sense, because that's going to take away from Black History Month. And that's going to sit there and take away from the knowledge that a brother does have in his heart to sit there and bring out to the people in this particular case. Brothers and sisters, had to leave the city. I live in New York City, and New York is a state. There's about 60 or so cities in New York State and several counties. And I had to, for edification purposes of self, being, if we call it, brothers and sisters, healthy selfish. You need that retreat time. You need that time to sit there and quote, like the rap group Mobb Deep stated, get away. You have to sit there and get certain things accomplished mentally before you start talking about being edifying other people. You might, whoever you may be, self-included, speaking yourself by using second person in that case, you may need some edification. So as the weather got warmer, and it's about 60 or so degrees, which for New York, going into the ending of winter and into spring, is pretty warm and sunny, a little cloudy, if you will, as well. So I thank the Most High for being able to take the bus at a certain time and going to a place called Bear Mountain, brothers and sisters. and being able to sit there and by myself on a human level, just be around the trees, just be around the environment, just be around, for the lack of a better term, nature, if you will. And it was very, very helpful to me. Singing the trees, singing the dog, singing, regardless of Shem Ham or Japheth, the children playing, going and just buying a little something to eat and breathing cleaner and clearer air is better for your lungs. Vitamin D comes from the sun, which is good for your skin. And brothers and sisters, in that particular case. So now, why do I state had to leave the city? People who promote vacations will sit there and tell you that getting away, going away, is definitely a healthy thing. And so, what can we say in light of that, brothers and sisters? Is this being cramped at a job, working X amount of hours, being cramped before and after the job at one's home for X amount of hours, and not to get too personal, what I call getting away for the moment is going to the movies, where I sit at my job, I lay down at home, and I sit in a movie theater that's dark. Because I am a movie buff. I even got, not to get too personal, what they call the A-list with AMC and everything like that, watching almost 3 movies a week. And sometimes the same movie. Like, for those who are interested, you may want to watch The Beekeeper. You may want to watch the movie One Love, speaking about Bob Marley. You understand? If you want a silly cartoon that has adult things but not carnal things, you may want to watch that movie called Migration. I'm using that as an example, brothers and sisters, because it takes one's mind out of what one is dealing with at the moment. And there's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't mean that that does not mean that you are avoiding responsibility. It does not mean that you're not walking back, whether home or to a job, before or after, with situations that you had to sit there and still deal with. What it does is it relieves the mind for the moment. When people are hungry sometimes and don't have what they want to eat or don't have to eat, they go to sleep. That sits there and quells the hunger for the moment until he or she wakes up. Thus, you have what they call breakfast, which is you breaking the fast. And when you are around, as I've now 44, thankful to the Most High for my recent anniversary of birth, what they call a birthday, the week before last. When you are around cleaner air, smelling herbs, whether the trees are budded or not, you begin to sit there and see them budded, and you see what is the evergreen tree. And as you can sit there and see, brothers and sisters, in the thumbnail, what it is in that particular case, it's a very beautiful thing. I felt getting out of Manhattan, getting out of New York City for the moment, very, very enlightened, very uplifted to sit there and get out my tension, negative pressure, aggravation, stress level, fled for the moment, giving thanks to the Most High to even have a safe trip. It fled for the moment, and that's something that I needed. It's been pointed out, brothers and sisters, that, and I'm not on their level, that Moses had to, for a time, be by himself. That after that, David, after a while, had to be by himself. That after that, the prophet Elijah had to be by himself. And when you are by yourself, brothers and sisters, it doesn't mean you're antisocial, because you know what you got to come back to, because you still got responsibilities. It makes you more adapt to have to sit there and deal with it. As Israelites, we have a Shabbat, a day of rest. If we did not have that, how would we know the difference between one day and the next? What would make one stand out in that particular case? Do you know that people bank and use their economy based on tourism, by people going to places such as going to another country or a country in the continent? which all countries do belong to a continent, right? There are tour guides because they figure that you're going to sit there and need the assistance and the help in that particular case. There are things at the airport that have your name or your number that's already known, so that way they can come and pick you up as a courtesy kind of thing. Of course, you're expected to give a tip depending upon where you are, just out of courtesy from yourself. See, it's about give and take. It's not just take and it's not just give. You understand? So, what am I saying? Not attempted to sound convoluted and mumbled and jumbled, is this: get your passports. For those who are knowing, you know that May of next year, they're going to have instituted what they call the real ID in order to travel from one state in this country to another state. But, brothers and sisters, you can look up the DMV about that kind of information when you care to do so online to stay abreast on what's going to be going on. It is called, this short video speech is to explain the reason. Well, I explained the reason, and that is needing to get away, even if by myself, just to sit there and state that I had to, and it felt good, and I have no regret in that particular case. To explain the reason, the purpose, and benefit of my recent trip from the city. Now, while I'm in the city, I don't want it to be thought of that I'm trying to bash the city that I was born in. Not that I'm like, yeah, I'm a New Yorker. No, it's not like that. But at the same token, my mother, my father is from the city. Before, and I'm always speaking about my mother, may she rest in peace. Next month makes 20 years since she passed. For those who have their mothers, honor and cherish that. For those who do not have their mothers, cherish their memory and honor what they were teaching you. And what I want to state, brothers and sisters, is my mother, may she rest in peace, wanted to go to Florida, where it's much more serene. A lot of the elders that I knew in Israel growing up left New York City. Most of my teachers came out of New York City. My very first teacher, not to get too personal, actually taught in New York City, but he was from the West Indies, but been in New York City decades before I was even born. And one of the things my first teacher stated, may he rest in peace, his name was Maury Yosef, out of the congregation that, well, he came from a congregation, ultimately, to my knowledge, called Beni Adat, when he came from or through. But I met him while he was a teacher in a place called Kol She'erit in the Bronx in New York. And one of the things I remember him saying is this. Essentially, I'm paraphrasing. We messed up as a people when we moved from the South. We had land in the South, brothers and sisters. After the matter with slavery and the situation with Jim Crow, many Black people that's in the East Coast of the United States left from the southern part of it and went north to New York, to New Jersey. You understand? To Connecticut, to Massachusetts. Many people in the South that was a little west of the East Coast of it went to places like Detroit and Chicago, brothers and sisters. And for those that were also in the South or the Deep South, went over west during the gold rush in the 1870s. But I remember that my teacher, may he rest in peace, stated that one of the worst things we did was leave the South because that is where the land was. Malcolm X, may he rest in peace, spoke upon the matter of the importance of having land. You can build things on having land. And when we hear things such as the concrete jungle, and when we hear things such as, for those into New or know about New York, the thing about the sardine can on the train or the buses, the crowd and everything like that, the rat race, as some call it, brothers and sisters, the smog and the pollution, the disrespect that is shown, and things of that kind of nature. Black people who are not Kunin or Sambo, for the lack of a better term, have spoke upon the way they're treated in other particular places. It's not like, say, in the city. And again, I'm not here to bash the city as I live and work in it. But brothers and sisters had to sit there and take that time away. The Bible talks about the city in the field. Did you know that if the field / country / that vegetative part of a society is not functioning, the city will fall? Did you know that? Because see, what happens is this. If the city doesn't get what it needs from the field slash country, the city can't thrive. When we start talking about turnips, where do you think they come from? When we start talking about broccoli, where do you think that comes from? When you start talking about onions and garlic and things of that kind of nature, and the things that you put in, whether they refer to it as healthy soup or some say itu soup, those things that you put in there come from the field, the country, if you will, brothers and sisters. So how then can we in the city knock or disrespect a matter that is needed for the city by saying a country bumpkin or whatever, just, as if it is meaningless? Diet is affected by the way the field is. Do you remember, and it leads into your economy as well, did you remember when Florida had a drought of rain that the orange juice prices went higher? So we need the rain, brothers and sisters. And if you are in the city and you know how nasty, not to be condescending, that the city is, you're going to want the rain to sit there and wash the earth of some of the stuff from the vermin, aka the rodents that you might see, brothers and sisters, for the things that people do. From spitting on the ground to urinating and defecating upon the ground, you're going to want the rain, brothers and sisters, to hit the cities as well, brothers and sisters. These are things, brothers and sisters, again, that we care to bring out for reference purposes. Again, the benefit of my recent trip from the city. I didn't turn my phone off and didn't attend to anybody that's family or otherwise, loved ones certainly in particular. But a brother needed that, for the lack of a better term, that me time for self in order to sit there and say, you know what, now I can sit there and have a tranquil mind. You're not getting a tranquil mind sitting in darkness regularly. You're not getting a tranquil mind laying down regularly. Do you know that if you lay down too much, you can get a thing called a bed sore? So that just goes to show you that we're not made to be one to just, quote, lay down, in that particular case, on a regular. Do you know that circulation does not work well when you sit down consistently? So you need whether they refer to it as a exercise or activity. In the medicinal world, you need to walk. When you walk, it gets the circulation going, brothers and sisters. You know how they say you should not just eat and sit or eat and sleep because it sits in your intestines? Well, when you sit on your behind for X amount of time, your blood circulation does sit there and begin to move slower, as opposed to when you are walking or jogging, brothers and sisters. It makes it speed up and it makes your heart do its purpose in working in that particular case. You want your heart to be working. And if it is working any extra, not based upon clogged arteries, not based upon fat around the heart, not that I'm a doctor, no, I'm not, but you don't want that, brothers and sisters. You want the oxygen to sit there and be able to flow back and forth. And you can't do that sitting at the job, laying down in the bed at night, and going to a movie where you're sitting in darkness. You're going to miss out on the vitamin D sitting in buildings regularly, laying in buildings regularly. I'm not saying that everybody must jog, but everybody does need to sit there and get out and breathe that good, better air kind of thing. Recently, speaking upon the matter of health, they used to sit there and give the slaves very much unhealthy food, and at times give them the stem of the vegetable, which, for those who do know, has the most nutrients within it in that particular case. So we definitely, brothers and sisters, while not being long-winded in this particular case, I want to bring this out for edification purposes. I want to say, Shalom, my brother Yirmiyahu. Shalom, my lady Sarai. Shalom to everybody who is in attendance and who does help and support. It is definitely seen and appreciated. A brother is open to constructive criticism. Let me know. The reason I had to leave the city. And Let's look at this, brothers and sisters. That's me early in the day. Yeah, still dealing with the headphones. I was going to be listening to some calming music, if you will. And that right there is part of how it looks in the springtime in the area called Bear Mountain. It looks like a very beautiful matter and so forth and so on. You begin to see the work of the creator of heaven and earth when you travel more and see more. You understand? When one begins to sit there and stay confined to a particular place, one can go mad and literally crazy for that. Did you know that? This is what happened to prisoners when they put them in what they call the hold or solitary confinement. They can't sit there and lose their mind. So, what do you think happens when you work a lot and or home a lot and don't go out at all like that? What do you think happens, brothers and sisters? In prison, they go from their bed to the toilet, wash their hands, and go back to the bunk or the bed. But when you are at work a lot and you put the sign up saying such and such will be back in X amount of minutes, and you go to the bathroom and come back, or you stay at home laying and sitting and not seeing the quote outdoors, and your reason for getting up is to go to the bathroom, then you go right back to the bed. What is the difference between the person who is incarcerated that gets up while inside of a jail cell to the toilet bowl, into the sink, and back to one's bed inside of a jail cell, and the person who works a lot of hours at home or otherwise, and their time of exercise or movement is going back and forth to the bathroom? There's no difference, brothers and sisters, in that. There's no difference, brothers and sisters, in that. The man or woman that's inside the jail cell, getting up from one's bed to go to the toilet bowl, and that be your form of movement throughout the course of a day or so, is the same way that people have become hermits and stay home, do nothing, don't work from home, or at work, don't bother to sit there and use a brick to step outside, sometimes only to smoke, which is damaging to your lungs, and not getting what they refer to as vitamin D from the sun, which is good for your health. You understand? You have commercial buildings. Shalom, my brother Nasik Rab. You have commercial buildings, right? And in these said commercial buildings, sometimes they, on Sunday nights, they change the plants or the flowers that's in the lobby of a place. Sometimes when you go into some, like I know I've worked on one, not to get too personal, I'm just going to say the cross streets is 3rd Avenue and Lexington Avenue. I was working as fire safety, if you will, in a particular place, right? Or security, sorry, in a particular place. In a building that's, for those who do know New York, 3rd Avenue is one block, Lexington Avenue is the other, right? And in it, they had plants. When you go into, correct me if I'm wrong, in New York City, what they call the Chrysler Building, they got a literal tree that comes up that they had sat there and plant. There are buildings in New York City and commercial America where you can go in and see trees that are being planted or that has been planted. Why? Because they want that tropical country kind of atmosphere, even in the concrete jungle. They have on Park Avenue things that are trees that are surrounded by a gate. So therefore, you just can't sit there and just do anything with that particular tree and so forth. I'm going to say it because I've been there visiting and I did have respect and do have respect for it. Hashaba Yisrael, which is in North Carolina. Across the street from it, you see what is looking like the woods. Nothing but trees and everything of that kind of sort. We breathe and inhale what the trees take in and give forth. So it's not a bright idea to just be cutting down trees because we need that. The trees, clean the air. Do you know that New York City could perhaps have so much pollution because it doesn't have enough trees? So what does New York City do? While the reason why I had to leave the city for the day is this. They have a thing, for those who do know, called Botanical Gardens in Queens, which is a borough, and the Bronx, which is a borough in Brooklyn. And they also have the Bronx Zoo. They also have the Prospect Park Zoo. You understand? Me and my lady Sarai went to both not too long ago, the Bronx Zoo and the Prospect Park Zoo, brothers and sisters. And when you are, as stated earlier, inside of the Bronx Zoo, for those who do know the Bronx, the air quality is better in the zoo than as soon as you walk out and go toward Webster Avenue. The air quality, I would say, in the Prospect Park Zoo, with the trees and everything there, is better than when you go out, brothers and sisters, in Brooklyn, say to Fulton Street. The air quality, brothers and sisters, by Botanical Gardens in Queens is better than when you go, say, for the lack of a better term, South Jamaica, Queens on Inwood. Very residential for those who do know. The people in Staten Island speak upon those kind of matters. The people, brothers and sisters, in Long Island speak on those kind of matters. So when I was on a bus earlier, right, and I realized seeing the 201 number that I'm outside of New York City, a stress was relieved from me. Your surroundings and your atmosphere, ladies will tell you that the air quality you breathe affects your private parts for females. Did you know that? You want circulation, brothers and sisters. So you want to walk. The children of Israel walked for 40 years. And sometimes they did rest a day. Sometimes they did sit there and rest a year in the wilderness. But ultimately, the majority of the time was the walk when they left up out of the land of Egypt on foot. So your feet, according to Deuteronomy, did not swell in that journey. Brothers and sisters, I am not a prophet. The prophet Moses said that the Most High is the spirit of all flesh. So if your flesh is moved to do something and you can see and know that it's not wicked, do it. Again, Moses had to sit there and take a walk for his own life, his own self, his health, mental or otherwise. David did it after him. Brothers and sisters, and Elijah did it after him. These were men that were of renown and great in the scriptures. So why would we be okay with not just taking a day, a couple of hours, and I just need to sit there and, as the rap group Mobb Deep said, get away? So brothers and sisters, in giving honor and praise unto the Most High, the Creator, the maker of heaven and earth, I'm going to ask the people who are able to hear and are in good spirits, please type in the number 4. I asked you to please type in the number 4. Now, earlier I asked you to type in the number 5 because I just wanted to do something simply just a little different. And I appreciate the brothers and sisters, elders, and everyone else who have supported the channel, who have supported by buying the books, and so forth and so on. Brothers and sisters, did you know that in the writing, yes, we know in the writing of many books, there's no end. That's not the citation I was going to make. What I was going to say is the book Hebrew is Easy, Volume 1 was written when I was in a place called Greensboro, North Carolina, where it's much more even quiet than, say, Charlotte, North Carolina. The only thing you might hear are cars going back and forth. But that book was written in a matter of 2 days while sitting in peace and quietness. You're not getting that in New York City. It's to the point now, and it's not to bash New York City, where they got a thing, and I heard this in the South too, WeWork, where you can sit there and rent office space out. Over by Grand Central, they're sitting up there saying, you want office space, you want to sit there and rent this space out, you can sit there and do that. But let's look, and it's not to be racial. Working in security, working in fire safety, working in these commercial buildings, brothers and sisters, I noticed something. Working what they call Monday to Friday, white people make sure they go on their vacations and they bring their luggage with them. You might see them as the weather gets warmer with their hockey sticks. You might see them already ordering the cars to come and pick them up so that way they can make it to the airport for their trip, leaving and say, all right, you have a good night. I'll see you. You will not see me. I'm going on vacation. See, our people, and this again, not to be racial, have, in certain cases, a short span of quote going away, like I do and did and may still practice. I gotta go away, man. I'm gonna sit there and go and check out this movie. That's your definition of quote going away, where you're still sitting again, which doesn't promote good circulation in your body in darkness. You understand? It has a depressive matter when just being in the same rat race, as the saying goes. We should not want that for ourselves. We should not want that for our loved ones, brothers and sisters. So the benefits in closing out of traveling, going to be in cleaner and clearer air, going to sit there and see what the creator of heaven and earth has made on his earth that is made by him. You'll begin to sit there and see a lot, brothers and sisters. Broaden your mind. You may be happy that you have something to look forward to. Like, whew, being able, I can't wait to this day. We hear that all the time. I remember hearing that as a child from the elders that I was around. Oh, another week. Oh boy. I hate Mondays. Ah. Why do you hate what is referred to as Mondays? Because it's not happy in these cities. You don't look forward to seeing your coworkers online or offline. You don't look forward to sitting up there and seeing your friends in certain cases. But if we lived and had a country like mine, you will sit there and say, howdy, my shalom ka. Ani sameak me lishmoa ata sameak. I'm happy to hear that you're happy, but you don't get that in the city. You know what you get, even from Israelites? What you talking to me for? I remember one person, and it's not to shame nobody. Brother, you can't sit there and keep on texting me, man. You trying to sit there and get me fired? I gotta be at work, the man. Like, wow. So you only see Shabbat Shalom, and you know what you until the next Shabbat, whatever you thought you was, such and such you. Forget you with a different F word until the next Shabbat. Is that what Israel has become to? Or, brothers and sisters, like it says in Jeremiah, has Israel become a homeborn slave? Why is he? I pray. We need you to sit there and do this. We need you to sit there and do that. We need you to sit there and do that. Yeah, Israel, according to Jeremiah, has become a prey. We need you to sit there and do this. We need you to sit there and do that. Is Israel a homeborn slave? In America, once you're incarcerated, you can, by American law, become a slave. Now, let's talk about slavery quickly, if we will. They would get up, South or anywhere else, because New York, too, was a slave state, and go, because what is now Prospect Park and Livingston Street, Livingston were the people, correct me if I'm wrong, that was owning the area of the plantations that now makes Prospect Park. Okay, so now, in Brooklyn, for those who are interested, no pun intended, right? They would get out the cabin, sometimes at 6 in the morning, and go right from there to the plantation that's right there. Didn't have to even walk far. From the slave cabin, the slave holding house, if you want to call it that, or so, to where they was being made to work, being a slave was not very far in walking distance. So I asked, why do you think people when I sit there, I got to move closer to the city to be closer to my job. You are then becoming a willing slave. Because it's closer to my job, I got to sit there and do this. This is why we might ask, as it says in the scriptures, is Israel a homeborn slave? Is this something that we have become so accustomed to that the idea of going away sounds ludicrous? The idea of even talking to brothers and sisters in the house of Israel to say, you know what, let's just do a retreat. Like, nah, I ain't got no time for that. A shout out to the people in Charlotte that promote what they call the IMA, Israelite Men Association, that does a retreat in what they call the month of May. Much respect in that particular case. Israel, we know that it speaks about the Shalosh Regalim, or the three pilgrimages that Israel would have when they go from their houses to the place on Passover when the Most High chooses to call his name. Passover, the timing of the Feast of Weeks, and the timing of the Feast of Booths. Those 3 times was a pilgrimage. That means you had to walk. So, brothers and sisters, it is mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical health to travel, to see things, to get out of, for those in New York, for those who know the terminology, the concrete jungle and the sardine cans called trains. You got to get away from that, brothers and sisters. And I promise you, and I'm not the creator, but I can say, I promise you that you will begin to see life different. This was a spiritual thing that a brother had to do. This was something that a brother had to do to satisfy his own spirit, so you won't have, for the lack of a better term, discordance with everything else that's going on and you taking it in internally. I will look unto the mountains from whence cometh my help. I will look unto the hills whence cometh my help. That is in the book of Psalms. Of course, we're talking about the land of Israel that has mountains and hills. Be a mountain has mountains. But brothers and sisters, when you're used to just pushing that elevator button and you're used to the coffee that's already pre-made and you're not going into the earth to sit there and get that, you're not getting the best kind, brothers and sisters. So if everything has to be brought into the city for the city to function, then what makes you think that we could function just being in the city? Giving honor and praise unto Yah, the creator, the maker of heaven and earth. Hopefully everybody is well and will be better. Please subscribe to the channel, comment, like, and share. Most High be with us all. Shalom.